I was lying alone in my room when I heard the voice, deep and crackly, coming from beneath my bed. "Hey," the voice called out. I told myself I was just imagining it. "Hey, kid," the voice repeated. I drew my knees up to my chest and ducked my head under the blanket, trying to shut out the voice and the cold wind that drifted in through the window, ruffling the curtains. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm the monster underneath your bed," the voice replied. "You mean you're real?" I asked. "What do you mean?" the monster said. "Of course I'm real." "Do you have a name?" I asked. "Of course I have a name." "Oh, well, what is it?" "Frank." "Frank?" "Yeah," the monster said. "Is there something wrong with that?" "No, I mean, I don't know," I said. "It's just not very monsterly." "Well, my parents didn't want me to be a monster." "Really? What did they want you to be? A dentist?" "That's funny," I said. I could feel myself beginning to smile. "What do your parents want you to be?" it asked. "I don't know." "Hey, Frank?" "Yeah?" "Aren't you gonna, scare me or something?" "What? Why would I do that?" "Well, you're a monster, aren't you?" "Well, yeah, of course I am, but that doesn't mean that I scare little kids." "But I thought that was your job." "It is my job to scare people," he replied. "But only bad people." "Am I a bad person?" I asked. "No," he said. "But you're not the only one I'm here to scare." "Who are you here to scare?" I asked. "The man inside your closet." I could feel the goosebumps on my skin rise up. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I fell silent as I heard the rustling coming from the closet. The door creaked open and I could hear soft footsteps padding towards me across the bedroom floor. I didn't dare peek out of the blankets. The footsteps stopped and I could hear heavy breathing next to me. I squeezed my eyes tight. The warm sanctuary of the blanket disappeared as it was yanked off me. I hugged my arms around my knees and prepared for the worst. A scream shattered the night air, followed by the sound of breaking glass. I opened my eyes a crack to see a knife lying on the carpet next to my bed, blade glinting in the moonlight. My parents rushed into the room and asked me what happened, but I don't know what to say, only that someone had been hiding in my closet and they jumped out of the window. My parents called 911 and the police came right away. They picked up a man called Gary Thompson, sprinting through the streets a couple blocks away. He was covered in blood and broken glass. They found Gary's car abandoned on our property, and inside they found duct tape, knives, and barbiturates and a video camera. From what I heard, Gary's lawyer employed an insanity defense, and Gary is currently incarcerated in a state mental facility for the criminally insane. I never heard from Frank the monster again, but the officer who arrested Gary told me that he sleeps on the floor of the facility. He tells the doctors that he's terrified of Frank, the monster, under his bed. As a kid, I lived with neglectful parents at best. At worst, Dad would turn his screams and fist on me, but I learned pretty quickly how to dodge the worst of it. Mom wasn't much help either, though. She'd just smoke in the kitchen and nag at him for staying out so late. At the time, we lived basically in the middle of nowhere. Our nearest neighbors were a long walk away for a 6-year-old, and we had trees between us. Lots of it, too. No one to run to for help. But I was a pretty small kid for my age. I learned I could fit pretty much anywhere. The closet, dryer, I think I even once tucked myself underneath the futon in such a way I could still get some air, but no one could see me. I was a master at hiding, but it was never for a good reason. One night, though, I chose to do something different. I could hear it in Dad's voice. He was pissed and he was about to get pretty violent. Mom wasn't helping either, as usual. She kept piling fuel onto an inferno of a flame, so I knew I had to find a good hiding spot. I'd gotten the idea a few days ago when I realized the lattice covering the bottom half of the back porch had a hole in it. Not big enough to fit a full-grown man, most likely, but it could fit a skinny 6-year-old, no problem. So, wrapping myself in my blanket and grabbing my hippo stuffy, I snuck out my window and ran into the backyard. In the middle of autumn, when it was 40 degrees out and the temperatures was steadily dropping. I crawled under the porch, scraping my elbows and getting splinters in the palms, but I fit inside. It was actually quite spacious compared to most of my hiding spots. I couldn't sit up all the way, but I had plenty of room to spread out my limbs. Of course, I was also getting covered in dirt. It had rained a few days ago, so the mud was still a little wet. I wrapped myself in my blankie the best I could and settled in for the night. But soon, even with my blankie and my hippo, my teeth were chattering so hard I could barely breathe. I didn't want to go back inside, though, knowing if my dad caught me, I'd be in for a whipping of my life. So, I had to tough it out.
Honey, are you cold?
That voice was not the voice of my mother, scratchy from all the smoking and screeching she did. It was sweet, like honey. I turned over to see a dim outline of a woman lying on her stomach next to me. She had a pretty butterfly necklace and was just as dirty as I was. I nodded, not wondering how she'd been down here without me noticing. The woman belly crawled forward and wrapped her arms around me, and suddenly I became warm, like I was sitting next to a campfire. I snuggled into her arms, not minding the mud. After all, we were both dirty.
You've gotten so big.
The woman said, examining my face.
And how old are you now, Alex?
How did I know this woman again? I didn't think I did.
6?
The woman gasped.
You're all grown up then. I'm so happy.
She sighed pleasantly and stroked my hair. I'd never felt so cozy in my life. She smiled. I could hear it in her voice.
I'm Lily. What's your favorite thing to do?
I had to think for a second. Lily chuckled.
Just like me then. Can never get enough of Scrabble. But I guess you're still too young to play that, huh?
I nodded. I heard Lily sharply inhale.
I don't think I can. Your daddy put me under here, and I can't leave. But...
She thought for a second.
Alex, did you do me a favor?
This lady was oh so nice. I wouldn't mind if I did her a favor.
When you wake up in the morning, go to the police station. Ask for an officer by the name of Lowell Joyce. Tell him where to find Lily, okay? Under the back porch. You'll come and you'll get me, okay? And then maybe we can play Scrabble.
Yippee. I was too excited about the possibility of playing Scrabble to notice how Lily's voice caught at the end. I nodded vigorously.
I'll help you understand the rules. Good night, Alex.
When I woke up in the morning, I heard Lily's voice again.
Go now. Your dad's gone to work. I'll tell you how to get to the station.
Rubbing my eyes, I crawled out from under the porch and went into the house to grab my shoes and a coat. I shivered in the frosty cold, but I thought Lily was right behind me. After my shoes and coats were on, I started walking. I really can't remember how long it took to get to the police station, although I have no idea why no one pulled over to see what the hell a 6-year-old in dirty pajamas was doing walking alone on the road. Lily kept guiding me onward.
Wait. Okay. Cross the street now. Turn right here. Keep going. We've almost made it.
I nearly collapsed with exhaustion by the time I walked into the station. The guys out front chattering and having a good time didn't see me until I almost made it to the front desk. I remembered quietly scolding the man about watching his language. I was given some warm cocoa and wrapped in a blanket by the time an old man with graying mustache sat by me. I set down my cup and looked him straight in the eye. I had never seen a grown man turn pale before. Lots of things blurred together at this point. I remember being taken back to my house, and there were a lot of police cars and people around. The back porch was surrounded by yellow tape, and someone was taking a black bag away while my dad was in handcuffs. After that, I lived with my grandparents, Sheriff Joyce and his wife. I tried to ask what happened and who was Lily, but I always got shut down. I was too young to know. But life got better, a whole lot better. Grandpa was the best man I could have hoped for in my life. We went out on the weekends to the movies where he let me have the giant soda, even though I have to pee in the middle of the movie a lot. When I asked if I could drink when I was 13, he let me try a beer. I spat it out and never touched it again. He never judged me for my love of arts, letting me paint my bedroom multiple times over the years. I felt safe around him. He never laid a hand on me either. My grandmother was amazing too. Over the week, she'd homeschool me, along with teaching me things that you wouldn't learn in school, such as how to respect others, but not take their crap, And cooking, lots of cooking. I could make my own birthday cake by the time I was 12. But I usually just made them for my friends. I got a lot of those after I was free from my dad. When I turned 16, Grandpa took me back to my dad's house. The whole thing had been bulldozed over, but I could still see the yellow tape wound around a few trees, faded and torn. We sat together on the back of his truck. He opened a beer and drank half of it before setting it down and grabbing me an orange soda. After I drank it, he told me,
Lily was your mother.
Good thing he didn't tell me as I was swallowing. I likely would have had it coming out of my nose. I questioned, confused.
Your actual mom, the woman who lived with your dad, was not your mother.
My granddad grabbed another beer.
Lily was my daughter, and I loved her so much. But when you turned 6 months old, she went missing.
Grandpa took a deep breath before setting his unopened beer down.
That's something I've never been able to understand. Lily told you to find me?
Grandpa went dead quiet before he opened the beer and slammed the whole thing.
Alex, Lily had been dead the whole time she was gone. When they dug her up, the bones confirmed it, and your dad confessed after. They'd gotten into a fight, and he threw her down the stairs. She broke her neck.
He clenched his fists.
I knew he had something to do with her missing, but I never had proof until you walked into the station and told them where she was.
I was floored. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was shake my head. I trailed off when Grandpa pulled an evidence baggie from his pocket. There was that butterfly necklace, all right. Rusty, and parts of the paint had chipped off, but I remembered it as clearly as I remembered Lily's voice. Grandpa took a shaky breath as he pressed the bag into my hands.
Lily loved you so much. That's why she stuck around that bastard. You were her whole world. She was constantly taking pictures and sending them to us in the mail. Sometimes A mother's love can accomplish things that no human can do.
My eyes overflowed with tears as I clutched the necklace to my chest. Choking on sobs, I leaned against Grandpa. He held me tight, and I swear I felt a few of his tears land on the top of my head. And for just a brief moment, I swear, I felt that warm love. I felt that night under the porch. It was a Thursday night. I just returned from a long shift at Popeyes. Being a college student with tremendous tuition bills, any extra money would help. I was on my way home from work when I decided to enter into a gas station to pick up some junk food. As I pulled into a parking space in front of the store, I saw something so terrifying, which would haunt me forever. There was a tall lady hunched over by the dumpster. Her body bent in a weird way, with her face covered by her long black hair. I looked over at the parking lot of the gas station as well as inside to see if anyone else was noticing this horrendous sight. The store clerk had headphones on, looking at their phone, but even then the view of the dumpster is impossible to see from inside. I only saw a man at the gas pump focusing on just filling up his truck, which left me and him being the only two people outside the gas station at the time. I glanced back over to the dumpster and noticed that the lady was no longer there. Being paralyzed with fear, I decided to glance back at the man at the pump. That's when I then noticed the tall lady crouched in the same exact unnatural position on top of the man's truck bed. Alarm bells rang through my mind, and I felt the courage to unlock my door and warn the man of the terrifying lady creature. I quickly jumped out of the car and screamed. The tall lady growled an animalistic growl, and she then began to grab the man as I noticed her then hands begin to transform into a wing resembling a bat. The man began to scream as his eyes were sucked out of their sockets by the creature. This thing that took the form of a lady turned into what I could only describe as a siren. All I could do was scream for help. I didn't know what else to do. I heard bell chimes as the door opened from the store and the clerk ran outside. I guess she must have heard me scream because she looked in my direction. I saw the creature still devouring the man. I was afraid to make any more sounds because I didn't want to draw any attention for the creature to notice me or the clerk. That was when the clerk screamed and I ran to her. The creature began to speak in a terrifying, deep, audible voice. That's when me and the clerk booked it inside the store. As we entered inside, the clerk turned the lock on the door and I saw her frantically run behind the counter and press this button, which I believe calls the police. She then cried and alerted me that the cops should be on their way. The creature then began to fly. Its legs, once resembled a lady, now looked like mosquito legs with a large upper body. I didn't even know how to describe it. It was just so nasty and ugly. Sirens was heard from a distance and the creature flew to the sound. The clerk then ran to the back of the store saying, "Screw this," that they don't get paid enough, and just ran out. Police cars then swarmed the store, with their guns drawn, aiming at me, telling me to get down. I complied as they ran inside the store. An officer pulled me to handcuff me and I fell due to the ordeal. I then woke up in a room where I saw a man who appeared to be a doctor. He proceeded to tell me that I passed out due to drugs and hallucinations. I never used drugs in my life, which I knew that was a lie. The man then winked at another person, which later would be an agent who worked for the government. I was forced to sign papers agreeing that everything I saw and witnessed wasn't real. It's been 72 hours since I was discharged from the hospital. Since that night, I don't know what's real anymore, but I can attest that there is more in this world than what you know. Just please, if you guys are out there, be safe.